I want you all to feel comfortable to interact with me during the sermon. If you need to ask questions, please feel free. I feel like I'm ready now. I feel like I'm ready. I do have to say, for me, it's always a wonderful opportunity to interact with people who have questions about faith, and from whatever age range, and to think about that. It's an opportunity for me to give thanks. I was so thankful for all the good questions and the many, many wonderful thoughts that were shared during that time. It's always good. So today is a story that I have heard many times, and I have preached it before. You would think in 4 decades of preaching, yes, I've probably at least mentioned it once. It's a wonderful story about people who cry out for mercy. 10 people who would have been outsiders. If you don't know anything about first century, you really can't call it Judaism. We point to the first century, we talk about Judaism, but there wasn't really a monolithic Judaism. There was the Hebrew people, and some worshipped through temple worship, and that was led by the Sadducees group. The Pharisees were kind of okay with temple worship, but they thought teaching was very important in the synagogue. And I have recently come to realize and believe, I was reading, the Samaritans were just another Jewish group. They were the outside group that were considered impure, but we're not going to go into the history. Then there would be a lot of questions. We would never get to the topic. This is a story where those 10 people who felt like outsiders, one of whom we know was a Samaritan, come to seek healing. So they call out to Jesus, "Have mercy on us. Have mercy on us." And the mercy that they're asking for, interestingly enough, the root of that word for mercy is a womb-like love. It is, the root of it is the same root as the womb from which we enter this world, the womb of life. And they ask for the kind of love that comes and gives us birth, that gives us new life right where we are. And they're hopeful because in the first century, if you were, it was like during the AIDS pandemic, epidemic of the 80s. People avoided persons with AIDS and HIV as if there was something evil about them merely by the disease that they had. Well, in the first century, that's exactly what they thought about lepers. There was something inherently evil about them, and that God was rewarding them because of their bad behavior, rewarding them with punishment, and this was the punishment. Now, we don't believe in a God that punishes us that way, I don't. Maybe you do, but I don't think that when we get sick or when we struggle in this world, that's God's visitation of us about our poor behavior. It really is just a natural side effect of being alive. Bad things happen, and we struggle to figure out what to do with the bad things that happen to us. How do we move forward? And so this was like a last-ditch effort for these 10 guys. They had to live apart from society. They couldn't come in contact with their family. They were nobodies and nothings to the people of the first century. It was obvious when they walked towards you. You couldn't even avoid it because it was a skin disease. There would have been ulcerations. There would have been all sorts of signs. They didn't fit in. And people would have shunned them completely as if they didn't count. Now, knowing that, this was their last hope. Jesus, have mercy upon us. Open us up. Make it possible for us to re-enter community. Give us the chance at relationship again. The sad thing about that first century thing was it wasn't just that you lost your relationship with each other. They believed that you lost your possibility of relationship with God just by having a skin disease, which is a challenge. So Jesus says, go and show yourself to the priest. That's the only way you can prove that you were clean. First century, the priest looked at you and decided whether or not you were purified, whether you had recovered. I guess the closest thing to a doctor, or at least somebody who verified your purity as a person. And so 10 of them take off to go and see the priest so they could be declared clean or not, whatever the priest saw. But one comes back, and we're told that one was a Samaritan. So not only was it just an outsider, but it was an outsider who had been considered by most of the other Jewish groups to be an outsider since the time they were born, because they were born in Samaria. They were considered outsiders from the beginning, so he was like a double outsider. He was a Samaritan and he was a leper. You put those two together, and he had no sense of relationship to God or others, because that first century group of religious folks decided who was in and who was out. And guess what? Samaritans, out, and lepers, out. Sometimes I wonder if that's not what happens in the church today. We decide who's in, who's out, who gets God's love, who doesn't. And I just have a little aside that I want to share with you, for you and for me. Deciding who's in and out, it's above our pay grade. I just want you to have a little heads up right now. We don't get to decide. Oh, I'm sorry, you're the outsiders, you're the insiders. God invites us all to be insiders. So I just want you to know, if you thought it was in your pay grade to decide who fits and who doesn't fit, it's not. So just let it go. It's one of those many things you can't control, like children's time. You just, you never know where it's going to go. Sometimes it's just so, and then sometimes it's so everywhere. And that's the way that it is. It's above our pay grade, but in that first century, they were sure they knew who was in and who was out. So 10 people go away healed. I don't think any of them lost their healing because they didn't come back. But only one person in the story was whole. And there's a difference between being healed and being a whole person. When that person came back, the word for gratitude in Aramaic is a whole body response to a gift you receive. Not necessarily one you deserve, but one you get. It's with your whole being responding with thanks. And so this one person was so deeply moved that his thankfulness flowed from him. It was a relational thing. Finally, he recognized, I'm not alone anymore. I am back in community. It's a relationship thing, and that relationship thing is what gratitude grows out of. It offers us relationship all over again. The 9 people were still healed, but I don't know if they ever became whole. I don't know if they ever recognized what a gift it is to draw breath, to have a heartbeat, to be invited back into community, to have a place that you belong, where you matter. That's what we are here. When you show up here on a Sunday morning, or if you never show up here, but part of our purpose in being here on a Sunday morning is not just to worship God, it's to remind ourselves we matter. There's not a single one of you drawing breath in this room that does not matter to God. We all matter, and that relationship is available to us. It's open to us. It's an invitation at all times. And part of the way we respond to the openness of that relationship is in gratitude and thanks. Yesterday, I graduated, say a few years ago, from the University of Virginia. I know, if you're a Tech fan, that's perfectly fine. You'll still probably beat us in football, even though you can't win any other time this year. Did I say that in the sermon? Oh, Lord. All right, if you need to excommunicate me, I get it. I suspect you'll still beat us. I really do at Thanksgiving time. Even though this is the best team I've seen in a long time at UVA. But that's a side issue. I went back for the Wesley Foundation gathering. That was what's called chasing a squirrel. I don't do it much anymore, but I did. I went back for a Wesley Foundation to celebrate the Wesley Foundation director, who was the director when I went there, turned 90 years old. So he retired shortly after I graduated. And so there were a whole bunch of people I hadn't seen in a long time, some friends that I'd kind of lost touch with. And I was so deeply thankful to see Hank and Janet and Tom, who I had not seen really in more than 3 decades. And we all felt like it was a moment of healing for us, a moment of open door, a moment to renew our relationship. And there was a whole kind of thanksgiving that rose out of me for that opportunity to reconnect with them. And in fact, we had to leave early because, apparently the celebration lasted until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And Charlottesville is a 2.5-hour drive from here. And I said, I got this thing I got to do tomorrow morning. So I really, I got to go. And they were very understanding. But I texted them as I was leaving, and I just said, I was really thankful that we got this time together today. Really thankful, and I'm hoping that this will, open some doors for us to stay in touch. And one responded and just said, what a joy it was to sit together again. And another responded that it was the beginning of what they hoped would be the rest of our lives of not losing connection with one another. I know what this, I don't have a skin disease. I don't, it's not obvious, anything is particularly wrong with me. I mean, we all carry things that are wrong with us, if we're honest, when we come into this space. But God wants to offer us healing. And the word for healing, your faith has made you whole, is actually from the root chai in Aramaic, which means your faith has made you alive. Your faith has made you alive. God invites us into life. Life at its fullest, life that's lived from a place of gratitude. I am so thankful to serve as your pastor here. I'm so thankful for the long history. The more I learn, the more of you I meet, the more of you I get to know by name and story. I'm thankful for that. I'm really thankful for what you do for this community. We had almost 300 this morning come for the Ministry of Hope. And that's because of you. We touched the lives of those who are in need. And they came here knowing, and they were every single one of them said thank you. And some of it, I'm sure, was perfunctory. We all say thank you. When the waitress brings something to the table, or the waiter brings something to the table, thanks. But some of them looked me right in the eye and said thank you. And I could tell what a difference it made in their lives. Gratitude is not something we do very well. Individually, as a culture, we aren't good at really responding thankfully to those around us. So I want to invite you to a kind of wholeness, a kind of life that responds to God's love for you. Be careful with what's been entrusted to you. Your time on this earth. This is another thing that we said at the table last night. It's kind of morbid for a minute. It's like, we all got a limited time on the earth. We better reconnect now. It's like, hey, come on. But the truth is, we are entrusted with this life, and how we spend it, how we give it away matters. God made us for a purpose. You are a gift. Your gift is meant to be given away. And it's not just your time, it's your money, it's your prayers. It's who you are to give, because it changes the world. So, I have an assignment for you this week. I want you to think about someone who has done something for you in your life. We had an array of people. Someone was feeling bad, and a friend, Ryan, gave them a hug and helped them out. Another friend, Ryder, Marshall's friend, Ryder, also encouraged and helped him feel better about life. And each of them shared a story of how they said thank you. When was the last time that you really said to someone who has touched your life, thank you? I want you to think about people who have made a difference to you in your life, whoever they are, however long it's been since you've seen them. And I want you to take one of those people and reach out to them this week. Whether it's a phone call or a handwritten, handwritten note, that involves, paper or something. And say to them, we used to do that at a time when I was, we attach them to our dinosaur, run off. But take a moment to be thankful and then respond thankfully to that person. Reach out to them and let them know what a difference it made. Maybe it was a tough moment you had 10 years ago, and it's been forever since you saw them. Maybe it was something your child did for you. I don't think I thank Joshua enough for the amazing food he makes me he makes it for Linda too. But he makes for us every Sunday when we come home from worship. He does that. Not because he has to, but because he wants to. And I want him to know how thankful I am that he does that. Who are the people who do those things in your life for whom you are thankful? And what would it look like to respond in gratitude, whole heart gratitude? Not just the thank you we throw away to somebody who hands us something, but the gratitude that flows from who you are, the gift of who you are. What would it look like? I can't tell you what it'll look like. You'll have to go out and decide, but just be thankful and let that flow from you in your connections this week. Like the one who came back, who was made whole. Thankfulness, gratitude, response to God with all that we are and all that we have. That's a way to respond with your whole person. So, I'm going to reach out to some friends this week myself and just thank them because I think it's important. And I encourage and challenge you to do the same. Whoever's helped you on this journey. It's time now in our worship experience for us to have our morning offering. I'm going to invite the ushers to come forward. One of the ways that we respond to the way God has given us life